Hello and welcome back to my studio. I hope you're well. Today, as promised in my last video, I said I would show you how to finish off these resin dam pieces. Once you take the tape off, and it looks like this edge here, because of the nature of the way the resin sits in the dam, the sides sit up a little bit and you get this very sharp edge, like sharp enough like a knife sharp. So it's always good to blunten off those edges, and I'll show you the whole process of that with this little piece that I finished the other day. So the first thing is to take this tape off that you saw me explain how to put on in my very first video about 45 videos in or something now. So I'll swap the camera around and show you what I'm doing here. Okay, here we are with our piece, and you can see I'm at my resin desk. I have this black plastic. It's just a gardener's plastic I got from the hardware store, and this helps stop the resin sticking to the table. You can see here there's a piece of resin dry, and it will just peel off the plastic. That's very handy for, even though you've got a dam around your work, as you can see here, sometimes the resin does spill out. That's one reason why I put these pieces on the back of the work, to help hold the work up off the surface, so if there is any resin that drips down, it's not stuck solid to the surface. You can also sit your piece up when you're waiting for the resin to cure on little cups like that or other wedges. So the first step is to take this tape off, and depending on how well the resin has been held to the surface, if there's been a spill over, this tape won't come off this easily. There we go. And so I'll show you the edge. I also put on this black gaffer tape because I found, because I'm using a timber mound, that the silver tape doesn't stick as well to the MDF. So I put that gaffer tape on there to help the silver tape, silver plumber's tape, stick to the board. So that's got to come off also. And again, if any resin has leaked off, this will be hard to take off. We'll see how we go. Okay, I might need a Stanley knife. It's a bit hard to see, to get the camera angle and for me to see what I'm doing. Once I get a bit of purchase. No, that's stuck. Okay, leave. The other thing that you might get is a little bit of the silver tape staying on there as well, and I'll show you how to deal with that shortly. Let's just change the camera angle so I've got a bit more room. And the reason why I'm having trouble peeling it off here is because a little bit of resin, I'm not sure if the camera will pick that up, but a little bit of resin has spilled over on top of the tape. So we need to deal with that, and I will show you how. I'll just get as much of this tape off as I can for now. So there we go. That's mostly off, and I'll explain how to get the rest of this resin and tape and silver tape off. Again, I don't know if I can get it to show up in the video, but there's this little lip here that's been caused by the resin sitting in the dam and sitting up on the edges a little bit, and it's very, very sharp. The way to get rid of this, the only way I know, is to give it a sand. Now you can get these sanding blocks from your hardware store. This is a very fine grain, this is a little bit firmer, you can see it's well used. They're also very good at getting a rougher sandpaper and using it as a block and wrapping your sandpaper around that and simply just giving, that's a fine one, it's not going to touch it much, giving it a sand. I find particularly when I've got the tape stuck and a little bit of resin going over the edge, the best thing is to bring out the heavy guns. I've got a belt sander, which if you've watched any of my other videos you'll see that in use. What I'll do is I'll show you that now, and that really does, it's got a much coarser grit sandpaper on there, and that will really clean up and take all this extra tape off and clean up these edges. You do sometimes also get, I'll show you on perhaps this one, you can get little drips, and the sander will also take those off for you, because once the resin's sat, and I'm talking specifically about art resin, and no, I'm not sponsored by them, I was their feature artist 1 month last year. I just love this product, but I'm certainly not sponsored by them. But this is what I'm talking to you today, is specifically about this type of resin. It's a 1-to-1 ratio, and it's a 24-hour soft touch cure, 72 hours, very firm. So these finer sandpaper blocks won't touch it once it's sat there for the 72 hours. So you need the stronger sander, and it'll also help clean up where this tape has been left on, because trust me, I've sat here for a long time picking at it and you just can't get it all off. It's quicker and easier to use a big tool to do that. So let's go and do that now. So here we are in the shed, and this is the belt sander that I'm talking about. Now she's a bit of a beast and very loud. Like that. So I will speed up the video and cut the sound out for you. But as you'll see, it's got this wedge here that I can brace the artwork up against, and you'll see me rolling it to get that edge, and also the sides and the back if it needs any. It looks pretty good along the back. So I'll see how I go one-handed, otherwise I can cut to some other footage. Let's see how I go. Here we are back in the studio, and what I should have mentioned earlier also was goggles and a mask, because the fine dust of the resin is not good for you, of course. So what we might be able to see in the video is now we've got this really shiny surface of the resin, and then where I've sanded, it's dulled it off. It's also taken off all of the tape that was on there and any silver. The back's also all nice and smooth, but we're left with a lovely smooth edge. I can't cut myself on that now, or anyone else that buys the piece, but the resin has lost its shine here. So what I do there is I mix up a small amount of resin and paint it on. I'll show you that, but of course first we need a completely dust-free environment for that. So I use one of these micro cloths and give it a really good wipe down, because any dust in there will show up and it will upset the mirror image that I imagine you're after with resin. Okay, so dust free. Now we need to sort out these edges. The art resin is a very safe resin to use. You don't need a mask on to use it, but you of course can if you like. There's no VOCs, COVs, it's BPA approved, which is why I chose that resin in the first place. Plus the people who invented it are a lovely Canadian couple. They've got heaps and heaps of videos on YouTube of how to use their product if you want any more details about it. But basically it's a part A and part B, so the resin and a hardener, and they're equal proportions. When I'm putting a layer down, so the way I work, for those of you that are new, I have a layer of paint, a layer of resin, maybe a few mil thick, thicker than what art resin recommend, but I find I'm able to get the air bubbles out if I work with the resin warm. Another layer of paint, another layer of resin, and so most of these teacup series have 3 or 4 layers working in that way. To cover this piece in the thickness that I do, I'll have, you know, maybe half of that cup will go on to cover the full surface, a lot more than you would normally lay on for art resin. I think it's a 1/8 inch layer they talk about, but I lay these quite thick, as you can see, nearly as thick as the board there is the layers, because I'm layering it up. I only want a teeny tiny amount for this, because I'm just going to wipe the edges with a little bit of resin and it will take that back to a shine. It is quite sticky. I've got resin on my skin before, it hasn't harmed me at all, but I do always still wear gloves, and I'd recommend you do too, just because cleanup is a lot easier. I simply dip a little bit on my finger, and then, how can I best show you this? Wipe the edge, and you should be able to see that that shine is back there on that surface compared to whether you can pick up that. See, it's quite dull there, and it's now shiny there. So it's a matter of just repeating that. Whoops. Doesn't really matter if you get it on the face, but you will see it. So it's about needing just enough. And remember to come over onto the sides, because if you've sanded like I've needed to on the side, that will be dull on the side as well. And I like to go over on the timber as well, because I feel like it helps protect it. So that's how you finish off a resin dam. You could use one of those handheld, what are they, an orbital sander, is that what they're called? You could use one of those as well. Anything that will take that edge off, and then it's, yeah, just a matter of wiping over. Now that resin I've mixed up, I would normally do about 4 pieces at once, so that's enough resin to do the edges of about 4 pieces. These are 10 by 12 inch size, so you only need a tiny little bit to finish them off. Okay, so that's how I finish off my teacup series, the resin layered series. So this is the part 2, if you like, of that very first video I made way back in lockdown last year, 2020, of how to build a dam to hold thicker layers. And yeah, so now we've come and completed the circle of how to finish those off. That original video has had over 800 views, which is just incredible that little old me in my studio in the bush can reach that many people, and hopefully you've all been finding that really helpful, and this will just add to that. If you have any questions, ask away, I'm here. If you think this would be useful for somebody else, please give it a thumbs up and a share. That really helps in the algorithms, apparently. Enjoy your time in your studio. I'm trying to do a video a week, but this yo-yoing of lockdowns is upsetting my mental health, so I'm not finding it as easy to get out here and be in front of a camera. And I don't want to be here all mournful. I want to be here bringing joy, because that's what my artwork's all about. So, until next time, go well, stay safe, see you.